Welcome back for another part of the problematic prince. First, I would like to thank you all for the support. We've reached over 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all for the support, and for the new subscribers, come along and let's discover a new manhua story. Okay, and without further ado, let's continue the story. After the ball, Bjorn found himself outside with a couple of pals. They were curious if Bjorn and Erna were an item, but it wasn't crystal clear. It seemed like Bjorn might be bending some rules. Bjorn stayed quiet once more, feeling a bit awkward. One friend advised him to chill out, while the other mentioned getting a letter from Miss Erna. They checked it out, and although it seemed like a rejection, they noticed Erna was really polite, thanking them for the letters and flowers. One friend joked about the rejection, but Bjorn was lost in thought about Erna. He figured it made sense for her to be straightforward, even when it's tough. Then, one of them spotted Lady Erna chatting with another guy, the second son of the Heinz family. They couldn't really butt in, but they watched with concern from a distance. Bjorn told his friends they could go bet on it if they were bothered, but to leave him be. He wanted Erna to make her own decisions. Out of the blue, Gladys showed up, wanting to talk. His friends bolted, and Bjorn reluctantly agreed to hear her out. She asked if he planned to keep using Erna like that. At first, he was puzzled about whose lady she meant, but then he got it she was talking about Erna. He questioned Gladys, wondering how she could be so sure he didn't genuinely care for Erna. To him, Erna, the country pumpkin, was not only more beautiful, but also kinder and more innocent than Gladys. But Gladys remained unconvinced, warning him not to harm an innocent person. She insisted they sort out their affairs together. This irked the prince. He thought he had made it clear that their arrangement was over and done with. Seeing Gladys tremble with sadness, he found himself at a loss for words as she proposed yet another deal, leaving him curious about its terms. He pressed her for details. Gladys then dropped a bombshell. She could help him regain the crown he lost because of her. The prince was taken aback, asking if she truly wanted to aid him in reclaiming his throne. She explained her plan. If they appeared reunited and happy in public, people would rally behind him once more, and he could resume his position as crown prince. She acknowledged his difficulty in forgiving her, but pleaded for another chance to make things right. Initially, the prince saw where she was going with this, but his smile quickly faded into fury as he pulled away from her. He rebuked her proposal, stating it was impossible because he didn't lose the crown because of her. If he had wanted to hold on to the crown, he had numerous methods at his disposal, including resorting to violence. Prince Bjorn stunned Gladys even more by confessing that he willingly gave up the crown because he didn't covet it enough, and he had alternative, even forceful, methods to retain it if he desired. Turning to Princess Gladys, he challenged her about what she had to offer. He questioned how Leonid, who had the crown thrust upon him, would react to her suggestion that he should simply relinquish it because the Princess of Lars wanted it. With tears in her eyes, Gladys tried to clarify her intentions, but the prince stormed off, advising her to seek her aspirations of returning as the beloved crown princess elsewhere. As Bjorn exited the room, fatigue setting in, he decided it was time to leave. Suddenly, he heard a cry and recognized it as Erna's voice. Earlier, Erna had found herself in a predicament with the second son of the Heinz family. He had grabbed her wrist forcefully, accusing her of arrogance and questioning her alleged promises with the Archduke. Upset, Erna demanded he release her, questioning why he was treating her this way. The man appeared visibly irritated, accusing Erna of arrogance simply because the rich son had shown her some attention. He belittled her for wasting her time chasing after the prince. Then, he suggested Erna could make a better impression on him, hinting that if she behaved properly, he might consider buying her instead of the old man. Erna, noticing the strong smell of alcohol on him, asked what he meant. In response, he insinuated that Erna's father didn't care who he sold her to, as long as the price was right. This implied that if he offered even a slightly higher price than the old man, Erna would be sold to him instead. The despicable man then groped Erna and attempted to kiss her, causing her to scream in terror. Despite Erna's efforts to resist, it seemed futile. She was in tears, frightened, and struggling against the assailant. Erna pushed the man away desperately and fled, her mind racing with panic about where to go and how to escape. As she ran, she struggled to find a safe path. Despite her efforts, the man caught up to her, insisting there was no point in running. Feeling trapped, Erna frantically searched for a way out. She glanced at a nearby window, considering if she could manage to jump through it. With his persistence growing, the man continued to pressure Erna to comply. Cornered and trembling with fear, Erna finally screamed for help. The sound of her screams reached Prince Bjorn, initially brushing it off as a misunderstanding. However, upon hearing a second scream, he decided he had heard enough. Assuming someone had drunk too much expensive wine and was now bothering a maid, he found the situation irritating, especially given his already aggravated mood. Amidst the chaos, Erna, driven by desperation and self-preservation, used a candelabrum to strike the man. The candelabrum became stained with blood, underscoring the violence of the confrontation. This turn of events surprised Prince Bjorn, prompting him to inquire about the situation. Trembling with fear and tears streaming down her face, Erna explained that she believed she had killed the man. She stressed that it was accidental, as she had struck him in self-defense, causing him to fall and hit his head, resulting in a significant amount of blood. Upon hearing this, Prince Bjorn realized the severity of the situation with the second son of House Heinz. Even individuals with questionable reputations typically knew better than to mistreat a noble family's daughter in such a manner. Prince Bjorn reassured Erna, urging her not to worry and explaining that the man had simply fainted. He assured her that individuals like him didn't easily succumb, and the man would likely regain consciousness soon. Although still trembling and likely traumatized by the incident, Erna felt a sense of relief upon hearing the prince's words. To comfort her, Prince Bjorn took off his coat and draped it around Erna's shoulders, reassuring her that everything would be all right. He then asked if she could manage to walk on her own. Still trembling, Erna nodded in response. Bjorn gently took the candelabrum from her hands and encouraged her to leave. Tears welled up in Erna's eyes as she fretted about Prince Bjorn. He assured her that once she exited the room, she should follow the passage on the far left until she reached some stairs. Those stairs would lead her to the garden behind the house, and from there she should continue straight along the path to find where all the carriages were waiting. He promised to handle the rest. With genuine concern, the prince smiled at her and added that she shouldn't worry because he always repaid his debts. Then he asked her if she liked boating, to which Erna confessed she wasn't sure. In response, the prince declared that she would have to like it because that would be their next date. He urged Erna to hurry and escape, assuring her not to worry about him. Despite her persistent concern for the prince, she eventually managed to flee the room. Once Erna was out of sight, Bjorn grabbed a nearby flower vase and poured its contents onto the unconscious man to revive him. The man groggily awakened, surprised to be met with a disarming smile from Bjorn. The prince politely greeted him and offered an apology, expressing relief that the man hadn't died. However, the man's response was anything but gracious. He erupted in anger, accusing Bjorn of insanity. This only fueled Bjorn's fury further, and without hesitation, he struck the man with the candelabrum, forcefully defending himself against the aggressor. As he administered a beating to the man, Prince Bjorn taunted him with a mixture of menace and wit. Roughing him up, Bjorn made a point. He questioned if people would believe they had engaged in a fight, suggesting that it might be more respectable for the man to be known as someone who had clashed with the troublesome prince, rather than someone who had been defeated by a woman. Bjorn explained that their social circle had keen eyes, and it would be better to entertain the narrative of their altercation instead. As the confrontation unfolded, the man ended up bloodied and severely beaten, a testament to Bjorn's skill and fearlessness. This showcased just how tough our guy truly is. Afterward, Bjorn strode into the ballroom, still gripping the bloodied candelabrum in his hand. The news of this surprise spread rapidly, becoming the hot topic among the attendees. Even Gladys couldn't help but take notice. Suddenly, the Heinz gentleman regained consciousness, his face bruised and battered, shocking onlookers. This unexpected turn of events even surprised Bjorn's great aunt. The next day, at Erna's home, Lisa delivered a surprising revelation. The legendary golden trophy actually existed. Erna's face reflected her shock as she grappled with this unexpected information. Lisa went on to explain that it was a tradition in a social club for young men about to be married to prepare cold trophies resembling deer antlers for their bachelor parties. Erna had a moment of realization that the prince had indeed been truthful, leaving her unsure about her next steps. This revelation was startling, especially given the recent tense encounters between them. Intrigued by the gentleman's game, Lisa probed Erna for more information. In response, Erna fabricated a tale, claiming she had heard about it at a party and was merely curious. She couldn't shake the memory of the recent trouble caused by the royal poisonous mushroom. He had been involved in excessive drinking and a brawl, tarnishing his reputation as the prodigal son. Erna found herself in a position where she felt compelled to defend Bjorn, suggesting that perhaps the rumors weren't entirely accurate. She wished she could clarify that he hadn't been intoxicated that night, but the words escaped her. Lisa was surprised by Erna's defense of the prince. Erna tried to clarify that her intention wasn't to overtly support him, but rather to caution against rushing to judgments without all the facts. She emphasized the importance of not hastily jumping to conclusions. During their conversation, Lisa caught onto Erna's defense of the prince. Erna tried to justify herself, emphasizing that she was merely cautioning against making snap judgments. However, Lisa warned Erna not to be swayed by the prince's appearance, referring to him as the poisonous mushroom. Erna sighed deeply as she contemplated her situation. She felt deeply indebted to the prince for all he had done for her. Despite her thorough search of the area, using the excuse of a leisurely stroll to retrace her steps from the fountain to the house that night, she had been unable to locate the missing trophy. Adding to her distress, she had unfairly blamed her error on the prince and fled like a coward, an act she found deeply shameful. Seeking solace and a solution, she retreated to her closet. As she looked at the meager amount of money she possessed, she realized it was nowhere near enough to afford even a fraction of a deer antler trophy. All she had was a small sum and a few coins, along with her cherished flower, which she kept hidden. As Erna gazed at the flower, a plan began to take shape in her mind. Later, she made her way to the bridge where she was to meet Pavel, hoping her plan would somehow make amends for her predicament. Meanwhile, Prince Bjorn rode along in his carriage, feeling content with how the summer was unfolding. Freyr Bank was thriving, his horse race winnings were satisfactory, and Lady Viscount Hardy's presence in society was waning, which pleased him. Bjorn also pondered over Erna Hardy and the rumors swirling around them. He didn't pay much mind to the gossip and acknowledged that things had become considerably easier for him because of her. Unbeknownst to him, Erna was about to assist him in winning a significant bet. Suddenly, he was surprised to see Erna waiting for him, carrying a sizable box. Inviting Erna into his carriage, Bjorn observed as she prepared a gift for him. He asked if she had anything to say, noticing her slight discomfort in her elegant attire. Bjorn encouraged Erna to speak up, and she mentioned her intention to return the evening coat he had lent her. Bjorn was taken aback and suggested she could have easily had her servant return it, but Erna insisted on doing it herself, expressing her gratitude and apologizing for any inconvenience. Surprised by her apology, Bjorn questioned its reason. Erna then confessed her involvement in the incident that resulted in Lord Heinz's injuries. Bjorn admitted that there was some truth to the rumor, as he had indeed struck Lord Heinz. This revelation shocked Erna, prompting her to inquire why Bjorn had taken such action. Bjorn clarified that he did it because he believed Lord Heinz deserved it for instigating the attack on Erna. He stressed that the pain he inflicted upon Lord Heinz far outweighed what he had received. Erna couldn't help but feel concerned and worried about Bjorn's well-being. However, she couldn't shake the memory that the person who had assaulted her the previous night was now showing concern for her. Bjorn reassured Erna that he was perfectly fine, dismissing her need to apologize or thank him. He then asked if she had something on her mind, prompting her to reveal a bouquet of her favorite lilies of the valley. This took Bjorn by surprise, and he questioned if she planned to sell flowers. Erna confirmed her intention, but not to him. She explained that she aimed to use the earnings to repay the debt for the golden trophy, as she had promised. This left Bjorn speechless, unable to grasp her plan to sell flowers to repay for something made of gold. Erna remained firm in her decision. Continuing their conversation, Prince Bjorn asked Erna if she was determined to reimburse him before his eventual demise. Once more, Erna affirmed her commitment, acknowledging it might take some time. With a hint of pride, she shared that her artificial flowers fetched a surprisingly high price. Though it might have seemed like boasting, it underscored her skill in crafting these blooms. Bjorn couldn't help but notice her hat adorned with a profusion of flowers, a clear testament to her fondness for them. Bjorn reassured Erna, granting her the freedom to do as she pleased with the flowers. Erna was genuinely grateful for his understanding and radiated with delight. She insisted that he keep one of the lilies of the valley, her most cherished flower, as a symbol of their agreement. Bjorn found Erna's behavior peculiar yet intriguing. She was proving to be a unique and captivating individual, and the prince couldn't help but ponder on the peculiarities of Lady Erna. Prince Leonid, Bjorn's younger brother, was waiting for him and asked why he was late. In response, Bjorn explained that something unexpected had arisen, describing it as a personal matter. Leonid noticed Bjorn holding a lily of the valley, a flower beloved by Gladys. He inquired about the flower and questioned if Bjorn had met up with Gladys by chance. Suddenly, Bjorn tossed the flower that Erna had made onto the ashtray. Despite his little brother's shock at the sudden action, Bjorn remained indifferent. He instructed Leonid to hurry along, offering to take a handicap since he was running late. Reflecting on his mother's words, where she had asked him to look after Leonid well, Bjorn felt a pang of responsibility. However, Leonid couldn't shake off a sense of unease about his older brother, feeling that he was behaving somewhat suspiciously, although he couldn't pinpoint any glaring issues. The two brothers engaged in a brotherly conversation, during which Leonid expressed his belief that it wasn't something a novice should be saying to the master. Bjorn replied, somewhat flippantly, that he supposed pool was his specialty. In Leonid's mind, he sensed that their mother's words had likely stemmed from concern rather than an accurate assessment of Bjorn's skill. Meanwhile, Erna sat at the cafe, sipping her tea, her thoughts dwelling on her relief that she could sell her faux flowers thanks to her childhood friend Pavel. Her expression betrayed a mix of sadness and relief. While she was glad that Prince Bjorn had accepted her flower, envisioning it as a fitting boutonniere for him, she couldn't shake the memory of him discarding it onto the ashtray. At that moment, Erna's mind turned to Lisa, feeling as if her presence somehow prevented her from meeting Bjorn. Erna reflects on the complexity of Bjorn's character, acknowledging him as both flawed and kind. She recalls moments when he saved her, and a smile involuntarily graces her lips as she reminisces about his acts of kindness and chivalry. Suddenly, Lisa returns from collecting Erna's sales and notices her smiling to herself, catching Erna off guard. Lisa is ecstatic, having earned more than last week. She praises Erna's impressive talent in making faux flowers, expressing admiration for her skills. Gratefully, Erna thanks Lisa, acknowledging that she couldn't have achieved it without her help. Lisa, in turn, modestly acknowledges her contribution, but insists that her skills pale in comparison to Erna's, even though she learned from her. She expresses gratitude for being paid for her assistance. Erna compliments Lisa, praising her efforts, and Lisa jokingly wonders if Erna is her guardian angel, encouraging her to make even more flowers next week. Erna is delighted by Lisa's motivation. Later, as they head home, Erna's father, Walter, awaits her, informing her that the Viscount is urgently seeking her. Puzzled, Erna wonders about the reason for his summons. Meanwhile, at Bjorn's palace, the Queen pays a sudden visit. Bjorn, curious about her unexpected appearance, speculates that it's not merely to congratulate him on his recent winnings. The Queen dismisses the maid's offer of assistance, indicating that her visit is brief. With a disappointed expression, she addresses Bjorn by his full name, a clear indication that serious matters are at hand. The Queen presents a newspaper with a headline that reads, "Archduke tricked by a temptress in Marchioness Harver's party." She asks Bjorn to explain the incidents, leaving him speechless as he reads the article. According to an anonymous whistleblower who attended the party, that night Bjorn was allegedly engaged in a secret rendezvous with a beautiful noble lady, which led to a fight when a passing witness intervened. Bjorn suspects Heinz, the man who assaulted Erna, of being behind the article. Irritated, Bjorn reflects on Heinz, wishing he had punched him in the mouth instead of his face that night. However, the primary issue isn't Bjorn's altercation, but rather the rumors surrounding the lady involved. She has become the subject of scandalous rumors, with some suggesting that she is the obstacle preventing the reunion of Princess Gladys and Bjorn. The question arises, will the poisonous mushroom of the royal family fall prey to the schemes of a seductress aiming to become the next Archduchess? Many in Lechen hope that Bjorn will apologize to Gladys and remarry her, restoring his status as an exemplary member of the royal family. The people of Lechen pray that their wishes will be heard beyond the walls of Schubert Castle. That concludes this part of the story. What happens next? Can Erna repay her debts to Bjorn? What will happen to that Heinz bastard after the incident he even lied about the article? And could Bjorn's feelings for Erna evolve in the future like husband and wife or like a lover or something? Stay tuned for more in the next part of this series, and thank you for watching.